Hey guys, Nick here, and today we will finally be getting into the lineup scene where Sophia and Rick's group meet back together after all this time. But how will the encounter go with the Saviors and Sophia? Is Sophia really too far gone, especially after Negan? Or is there the slightest chance she could be redeemed back to the good side? This is part 21 to What If Sophia Joined Negan. Now, Rick and his people, on their way to the sanctuary because they know where it is firsthand, meet up with the Saviors in the middle of the road, like before, except it's Gavin that is leading them instead of Simon. As I've discussed before, that's because Simon and Michonne, who joined the Saviors, are long dead past this point. So Gavin is the only other main one besides Regina, Laura, small other Saviors. Gavin's like the other main one. And the Saviors are pretty much broken now for Sophia and Gavin, mainly. And as we've seen, Gavin's pretty much the nicest Savior. Although the loss of many Saviors might make someone even like Gavin a little bit more serious. But we saw, even when he was invading the kingdom, how good of a person he was. He was literally begging for his life and seemed genuine about it. And for anyone who thinks I'm wrong, go ahead and comment. But the point is, he knows what's about to happen and what Sophia might do to Rick and his people here, and wants to do the right thing by getting them out of there. Even if it means getting them away from the person they've been looking for all this time, because I feel it would have come up by now to the Saviors. Gavin just straightforwardly says that they have one choice. Well, two choices. A, they can stay here and pretty much gun it out and nobody wins, even killing Sophia. Or two, they hightail out here and never, ever come back, and says that he's trying to save their lives, or what's left of their people. Rick, only losing Shane, is still a pretty chill guy, so he's not that murderous Rick we've come to know. And he genuinely thinks this guy's just playing with him still, and says that they'll leave all right, and they don't plan on killing anyone else. They know how broken the Saviors are, especially after Shane did his whole sacrifice thingamajig. It wasn't truly a sacrifice as much as it was just taking... I mean, you could call it a sacrifice of sorts, but point is, their main goal here is Sophia. They came all this way, they're going to find her. And if they're the ones with choices, they gotta tell them where she is and nobody has to die, or they can go about this war and he can guarantee that they will come out on top. Gavin, at this point, knowing that these people are not going to listen to him, is just like, you know what? Fine. These people don't want to listen. They're digging their own grave. And just decides to relent and says that farther beyond the woods, to the left of them, far from this point, not too far, but far enough, is where not only Sophia, but a few of the remaining Saviors are. He doesn't say about the lineup. That's actually being kept a secret. But he does say that they are that way, Sophia and Olga. Rick smiles and says that he says thank you, and says that Gavin and the Saviors here have made the right choice by doing this and not having to resort to fighting. And then they get surrounded. Yep. Although I said to some people that the lineup would be different, many aspects are different, obviously, as we've seen even so far here. But some of the main parts, even like here, are the same, except nobody has to worry about Maggie, because I feel even if she was pregnant and everything else, it would not matter in the aspects of here. So, yeah. Anyways, they get surrounded like before, going that way since they know to go that way, and then you see Gavin show himself once again and be like, yeah, we did make the right choice. You didn't. And puts everyone on their knees, takes their weapons, to his reluctant view, because once again, Gavin's pretty much the nicest savior. And then we get the moment we've all been waiting for. Sophia steps out of the RV and does an intro sort of like Negan. We could expect that at this point, because Sophia, she's basically Negan, because she's the leader of the Saviors now, and has the bat and all. Speaking of weapons, she has brought more than just Lucille. She has all the weapons, her signature ones that I demonstrated at the beginning of the series, whenever she was first introduced to being a savior. Her Colt Python, well, it wouldn't be the exact Python that Rick has, but it would be close. The machete, switchblade, double-headed spear, machine pistol, shotgun pistol, and the burst assault rifle. And the big top two, Lucille from Negan as a monument to remember him by, and to symbolize that the saviors have not yet died. If I didn't explain that already, I feel that's a pretty decent explanation. And Michonne's sword as a trophy from whenever she took her down at Oceanside. Didn't have really anything to take of Simon, so yeah. Anyway, Sophia, basically after doing a little intro like Negan and demonstrating superiority over Rick and his people, says, looking down, well, here we all are. And this is just a cold smile. This isn't a happy smile. This isn't a good to see you smile. This is a heartless, cold, cunning smile coming from Sophia. And the main two that this gets thrown off for is Rick and Carol. They were not, absolutely not expecting this. What happened to her? They get that, from what they heard, Negan was a bit of an influence for Sophia, especially after being with him for this long, but what's happened to her? Carol would be the most affected by this. What happened to her little girl? She seems so heartless. And out of a desperation and finally seeing her face to face, they ask her to come back. They've been looking for her all this time, but Sophia cuts them off almost instantly. Because one, they're on their knees, so they're in no position to be making orders. Number two, Sophia's past the whole, oh, can we just come back together and live together and all that stuff. No, Sophia's well past that point. And she states why. She would have probably at least declared peace if Negan weren't killed. Then she goes on to explain what's happened since they last met. She goes to say that after seemingly being abandoned and everything, and yes, she did run off on her own, but she still expected them to find her. And after seemingly being abandoned, Negan rescued her. And sure, many of the things like Negan's wives and maybe a little bit of the savior outlook and everything wasn't the best at first, but the whole idea of what the saviors represented, and especially Negan, how he carried himself, how much he cared for not only Sophia, but he had morals. He cared about kids, and just his whole physique made him a part of her that she wanted from, part of him that she wanted from Ed, basically. As I've stated before, Negan was what Ed should have been to her. And it was just, she finally seemed at home with the Saviors and Negan. That's why she started calling him Dad and everything. Because it really meant a lot to her. But when Shane just appeared, and not only just wanted to get her back, and just randomly popped up at the gates, and everything else, not only forced that, but the fact that he took Negan's life, and just, he had to die. There was no getting around that. And Sophia goes on to say he couldn't accept the fact that she was at home here and that she wanted to be with Negan and the Saviors. He wouldn't accept that, so he had to die here. None of her wanted that. He told him to go away, and he could have, but he stuck to his own stupid agenda. This is all her words, by the way. He stuck to his own agenda, and that got him killed. And her pretty much dad. And after hearing this, everyone is just shaken to tears. Even the people that don't know Sophia, and there's a lot of people here, mind you, if you watched the last episode, there's a lot of people here. And the people here that don't know Sophia, and believe me, there's quite a lot of them, this just breaks their hearts to hear a story so sad and so enticing. And honestly, they were not expecting it to be this serious. What started out as something small grew to this. But in a last-ditch effort, one final push, Rick, Carol, and everyone else who knew Sophia, that of which being Andrea, Lori, Glenn, Daryl, and Carl. Carl especially, because they were kind of close. I'm not saying that they were in a relationship because they were little kids, but still, everyone who knew Sophia, every main person who had the smallest even influence, mentioned that they have lost plenty of people from their old group, and that they have risked so much to get her back. And then Rick decides to speak for himself, saying that he can't excuse for what Shane did, or how it was done, or what was going through his mind. He tried to even stop him himself. But if it meant trying to get her back, he let him. And maybe that's his fault for not stepping up as a true leader and stopping Shane from doing something reckless. If he had stopped him, Negan would be here. And who knows how much worse it would have been, but it honestly could have made things better. But as much as everything here has no kind of excuse or meaning, there's no excuse for any of what's happened, obviously, but they can't just quit abandoning Sophia now, because if they do, it'll mean risking their lives this far will have been for nothing, and they just want her back. And that's it. And say that they are very, very sorry for not finding her sooner. But Sophia, a part of her really, really wants to listen to this, but as many of you have even said, very true, by the way, she would be pretty much very much Negan at this point, and walks straight up to Rick and points Lucille at him. And she would be very much fighting herself right now, whether or not she wants to kill Rick right here and right now, kill all of them, or let them go. It's honestly a struggle of her feelings. And Rick knows that whatever part of her that maybe wanted to listen, he doesn't know if it really will. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Sophia will actually listen to reason? Do you think that Rick and every other person who's been a part of Sophia's life from the beginning will actually be able to make leeway in convincing Sophia finally to at least let them live? Or do you think that she's just too far gone and this is the end for Rick and everybody else? And that's where we're going to be leaving things for the moment. I bet a lot of you in the comments right now are going to be saying how emotional this was, and probably even a bunch of you might be crying at this. Because honestly, this would be this would be a much better story other than the what if Lizzie survived thing. Because it's more twisted. The idea of Carol's actual daughter getting like this. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys next time.